Here, I'm going to use Excel to illustrate what it means to hold the effects of other variables constant. In other words, I'm going to use Excel to illustrate what is statistical control. So, let's say we have three independent variables in our model: education, sex, where males are coded as 1 and females are coded as 0, and the years of work experience. These are our independent variables. So, because there are three variables, but this is a two-dimensional worksheet, so we can only present three pieces of information represented by three independent variables in two worksheets. So the first worksheet pertains to all females. So in this case, because this worksheet is for females, we are already holding sex constant. And first of all, we want to estimate the expected income. I forgot to mention that the dependent variable for this equation is expected or predicted income, given the values of these coefficients or betas, including the intercept. So we need to use our spreadsheet, type in some formulas to calculate the expected income given the different values for education and work experience for females. So this is the formula I type. Then I just copy over what I just typed. You can either copy by columns or rows, it doesn't matter. And after that, I want to see how is income going to change with another years of education if we hold sex and work experience constant. This is what we mean by holding a variable, in this case work experience constant. We just focus on a particular row. And this is what I try to do here. I try to estimate the income differences when we gain additional years of schooling. This is the formula I use. In fact, we can just copy the formulas over. And if we hold work experience constant in a different way, here are the difference in income estimates. And as we can see, when work experience is 0 for females, when these two are constant, we set this fixed to be female and we fix our work experience to be 0. When we subtract this from this, this from this, this from this, and so on, we get these values for the entire row. When we hold sex and work experience constant. And as you can see, this value correspond to these coefficients. So when we fix the value for work experience and we also fix the values for sex, the rows are all the same. It's the same for here. But here we need to take the additional years of work experience into account. We have to multiply 1 year by these coefficients. In fact, this value is the summation of this and this. And when we hold the variables constant in yet a different manner, we focus on 2 years of work experience, and for females, we get a difference. And we want to verify if we are doing the right thing in here. We can also calculate from our regression coefficients. We have to multiply 2 years corresponding to this cell with these coefficients, and we are going to get this number, which is the same as this. So it tells us that we are doing things correctly in here. The same thing for this and this. And I'm going to post this spreadsheet on GitHub at the end of this video. So, in another scenario, we hold sex constant. Sex is already constant. We restrict the sex to female, and we hold education constant this time. So when we hold education constant, this is what we do. So we are trying to see for females with no education, if they gain additional work experience, how would their expected income change? So we subtract this from this, this from this, and this from this, and so on. As you can see, for females with no education, it seems that gaining additional years of work experience do not change their income. And for females with 1 year of education, we want to estimate how would their income change given additional years of work experience gain. So we subtract this from this, this from this, this from this, and so on. This is what we get. The numbers are all the same. So this is what we mean by holding sex and education constant, to see how income will change if we vary by work experience. The same thing for here. So as you can see, the numbers for the columns are all the same. When we hold sex and education constant, the numbers, if we look by columns, they are all the same. If we focus on rows, they increase by the multiples of 0.798, which correspond to these coefficients. So this is how statistical control can be illustrated using Excel. This is what holding constant means. We fix the values of 2 variables, sex and education, in here, and we see how income is going to vary by additional year of work experience. Or we fix the work experience here, and we fix the value for sex, and we see how the expected value for income is going to change given additional years of schooling. This is what we mean by holding constant, and it can be illustrated using spreadsheet or Excel. And because we have 3 pieces of information, this is a 2-dimensional worksheet. So we have to illustrate the expected income for males in a second worksheet. And the same thing, we calculate the expected income for the different numbers of work experience and education. We plug in the formula here. As you can see, because sex is is coded as 1, so we multiply 1 by this cell in here, and we just copy the formula over. And we want to see how expected income is going to change if we hold constant work experience and sex. In other words, we want to see how expected income is going to change if we fix the value for sex and work experience. So we subtract this from this from this, and copy over. This is what we get. And it corresponds to the coefficients for education. And as you can see, this value is the same as the value in here when no interaction terms are involved. And when we subtract this from this from this, and so on, we get the value here. And when we subtract this from this from this, we get the value here. I'm sure you get the hang of it. So, if we want to make sure that we are doing things correctly in here, we can calculate again the values we obtain here based on our equations. If the number we get in these cells are similar to this, then we know we are doing the right thing. So if you want, I think it will be easier for you to download this Excel file on GitHub instead of me explaining how it's being done. So we just plug in the formula here. And if the numbers are the same, we know we are doing the right thing. That's my point. And we also want to see how expected income is going to change if we hold constant education and sex. And we just subtract this from this from this, which is all 0 for people with no education. And when we subtract this from this from this is what we get. And as you can see, the values for here are similar to the values for here when no interaction terms are involved. And I also forget to mention that the values for here, the expected change in income, are similar to the values in here for females when there are no interaction terms. And as you can see, when we hold education constant and we hold sex constant, the change in expected income is going to be similar within the same level of education. And when we hold sex and work experience constant, the change in expected income is going to be similar within the same years of work experience. Hope I'm making sense so far. And one more thing I'm going to mention. If you look at those with no education, no work experience for females, their expected income is going to be similar to the value we get for the intercept. And for males, things are a bit different. For males with no work experience, no education, their expected income is going to be the sum of the intercept their expected value is going to be the sum of the intercept and the coefficients for male. Are we clear? So we have looked at how expected income is going to change by holding work experience and sex constant. We also look at how expected income is going to change by holding sex and education constant. We haven't looked at how expected income is going to change if we move from females to males or males to females by holding work experience and education constant. And this is what we are going to do. So if we fix the value for work experience and education, this is how the expected income is going to change when we move from females to males. It's just the value from this column subtracted by the values from this column, and things are being copied over. So this is how we can illustrate the concept of holding constant using Excel or any spreadsheet. I hope I'm making sense so far.